What's up everyone, Doyler here, and it's time for my shelter event guide slash tutorial, along with some tips and tricks. I know a lot of you, especially new players, are asking how this event works and how you should be getting your hero copies, as well as what the rewards are and some mistakes I see far too many of you making. Before we jump into that, I'd appreciate it if you guys hit that subscribe button if you like me or my content. We're definitely on pace to hit 2,500. Probably early next year, unless we get a huge surge and maybe hit it before the end of this year. Other than that, definitely check out the links down in the description. Join our Discord. We've got over 200 members actively chatting about Idle Heroes. There's a Facebook page, Patreon, Twitch. Once a week streams, but hoping to bump that up soon, so stay tuned for that announcement. So with all of that out of the way, let's jump right in. So if you're not familiar with the shelter mission, it occurs during every Imp's adventure, and occasionally outside of that, although they may change that cycle entirely. And the way that it works is you turn in, and as you can see, this is also old text. Well, I guess there is gold and gems for light and dark heroes. No, there's no gold anymore. Yeah, so this text is outdated. It no longer costs any gold. But the way it works is, for non-light and dark heroes, you will turn in 4 4-star heroes already built and 1 5-star hero of any class, but the faction has to match, and you will get a specific 5-star hero in shard format, 2 pieces of 4-star gear, and during Imp's Adventure, 5 dice. Now, generally speaking, you always want to do the shelter mission during Imp's Adventure. These 5 dice times 4 give you 20 dice as a free-to-play player. This is huge. Without these, you're basically not going to be able to get that 200-star selection chest reward, which is really your main goal as a free-to-play player. Other than that, if it's outside of an Imp's event, it's not a terrible trade-off to swap basically 4 4-star heroes for 4-star gear, as well as maybe upgrade your 5-star hero, so you could trade in a Sierra and get a Penny and so on. It'll really depend on where you're at in your game and progress at that point. So, other than whether or not you should or shouldn't do the shelter event, there is also a caveat as to what specific heroes you will need to complete the event. So as you can see, this reward for the Fortress faction is a Penny. And if we take a look, we see that Penny is a Fortress Ranger. Now, that means that the 4-star, but not the 5-star hero required to create this reward is going to need to be a Fortress Ranger. So to complete this, we would need 4 copies of Liquor or LM. So let's select those. And any 5-star Fortress hero, it does not have to be the same class. So we can use Roy, who's an assassin. Now, as you can see, we're at 4 out of 4 and 1 out of 1. So if we hit submit, we will get Penny, the dice, and the boots and weapon. Note that the 4-star gear alternates, so you have boots and weapon for Fortress, and chest and accessory for Shadow, boots and weapon for Forest, and chest and accessory for Assassin. Now, again, Gustin is a Shadow Priest, which means that the only Shadow Priest we're going to need is Glenn, as he is the only Shadow Priest. So let's turn our copies of Glenn and our Bone Carver. We'll get that. Next up is Garuda, who I know is a Forest Warrior. So we're going to need either Kargath or Chief. So I only have copies of Kargath, so we'll dump him in there. And we will feed a... we'll feed Bessa. Nope, her name is... I forget her name. We'll feed her. So, as you can see, outside of the 4-star heroes that are effectively required, generally speaking, you want to swap in a 5-star hero that is non-elite, and ideally one that cannot go to 10-star. So these are going to be the heroes that you've upgraded from 4-star to 5-star already. So I used Sierra, I used Bone Carver, I used the Forest Healer, whose name is escaping me at the moment. Alright, Thale, sorry. I used Thale, and the last one, Nakia, is a Abyss Assassin. So we're going to have to feed Akasha. Actually, I'll come back to her. Other than that, you also have light and dark heroes. Now, these ones you never want to do unless you're some super whaley whale and have a really weird reason that you'll want copies of Sleepless or Gurk. because as you can see, not only is it 2 5-stars for one 5-star hero, but it also requires 2,000 gems. So basically you're paying, 2 copies of Dark Spirit and 2,000 gems just to get Sleepless Shards, or Light Spirit and gems for Gurky Shards. These never contain elite Light and Dark heroes, so it's not like you're going to be able to get a carry from Shelter or a Russell, so you really want to stay away from these entirely. Even during Imp's Adventure, they aren't going to give you those dice. Now, before I knock out the Nakia, I want to cover a few things. First of all, sometimes the 5-star reward hero does not have a 4-star class equivalent. For example, in the last Shelter event, the Abyss reward was Cthulhu. As you can see, Cthulhu is an Abyss Ranger. That said, if we take a quick look, Warrior, Priest, Mage, Warrior, Assassin, Warrior, Mage, Priest, and 3-star. There are no 4-star Abyss Ranger heroes. In that case, DH Games has a list of heroes they consider equivalent, basically. I'm not sure offhand where they sort of decide which heroes create which other ones. I think it has to do with, like, assassins can become rangers and so on. I'll try and find that information and link in the description, but if not, drop me some information or link in the comments and I will pin your comment so that others can see this information. But in this case, specifically, last time for Cthulhu, you were required to turn in 4 Akasha copies. So, as a ranger, Cthulhu was allowed to take rangers or assassins, and as there were no assassins, it required the Akasha. Now, note that this overlap doesn't occur if the class exists. So, since there is a Fortress Ranger, we are not able to use Fortress Assassins, since we could just use either of the Fortress Rangers. Other than that, some 3-star classes are rarer than others. So as I pointed out on Nakia, there is only one 4-star Abyss Assassin. And there's only one Shadow 4-star Priest, which is Glenn. As opposed to Fortress, which had 2 Rangers this time around. Now, that means that you're going to have a little more trouble completing, for instance, Glenn or Akasha copies during these events as a free-to-play player, but you'll want to keep that in mind for the future and maybe save these copies. So let's complete the Nakia with our Akashas, and I'll cover the best way to sort of get these heroes and then things you should or shouldn't do. So we'll turn in Illyria, or Lemegeton. Again, he's a 4-star that turns into a 5-star. He can never be 10-star. Easy to select him as food. And now we are complete with this part of Shelter and get our 20 dice. So, the absolute best way to get food for Shelter is to just have it sitting around. So, as you saw during this, I didn't open any shards, I didn't do anything else, I already had everything prepared. So, if you know a Shelter event is coming up, figure out which heroes are going to be required and save them. As you can see, I saved plenty of Glens. A trick I like to do so to make sure I don't fuse them is, for instance, for these Glen copies, I'll lock 4 of them, and then that will prevent me from fusing or feeding him during the events leading up to it, and it'll sort of be a constant reminder that Shelter is coming up, I need to save Glen copies. The second best way to get these heroes is to save up the shards. I guess actually this is probably better than saving up the heroes since it doesn't take up bag space. So the actual best way is to save up shards. So if I didn't have all of those heroes prepared, as you see, I've got more than 4 copies of Kargath, I've got more than 4 copies of Akasha, more than 4 copies of Glen, and I think I'm short on the Fortress heroes, but that's already 3 out of 4 shelters done just by the shards in my bag. I don't have to worry about anything other than that. The third best way to get these heroes, and the one I recommend for most players, and how I complete this on my free-to-play accounts, is the generic 4-star shards. You should be saving these anyway once you've finished your monthly fusions, and open them during maybe Heroic Miracle, but especially a Shelter event to try and get copies of the heroes. So 3% chance for Glen, 3% chance for Akasha, and so on. So that's going to be your next best bet. And it doesn't have to be generic shards, it can be class-specific shards. So the class-specific shards have an even better shot, so we could get 12.5 for Liquor or 12.5 for LM. So shards or having the heroes are your best way to get these heroes. And note that during a Shelter event, maybe you want to spend a little more gems for these hero challenges and Sealand, depending on your levels. Be sure to check out my Sealand guide, Guide to Smashes, if you want to know when you should and shouldn't smash. The first inefficient method that personally I do and wouldn't be opposed to you doing is buying class-specific shards for gems. Now, generally speaking, a 4-star hero is worth 50 gems. So you're paying over double the price to narrow down the class. Or narrow down the faction, sorry. That said, it does greatly increase your chances of finishing this, but I would wait until the last day or two if there is a faction you can't complete. Now let's move on to the things you should not be doing during Shelter Event. Even if you can't finish Shelter Event, don't do these things. They are a waste. They are inefficient use of resources. First, don't waste your altar stones on 4 stars, even if they are going to be in the event. You'll want to save those altar stones for those useful elite heroes, like, you know, the huge event coming up that has 4 dark heroes. On that same note, don't use your guild coins for 4-star heroes that may or may not be in the Shelter Event, as, again, this was a poor mistake for a video, but not something you want to waste. You always want to be spending them on tech. Same vein of saving resources, do not use heroic scrolls. If you want to save friendship summon and basic summons for these Imps events, it's honestly not that bad idea. I actually have accounts where I've completed Imps Adventure due to having 10 friendship summons. So worth considering. You don't get any rewards for them, so maybe save them for your events that require you to get heroes. And the biggest one, and the mistake I see the most often, do not use scrolls to get these 4-star heroes. It is a huge waste. You should not be orbing. Do not use orbs to get these heroes, and do not orb outside of events. It is a huge waste. It is not worth it. Just figure you won't get the 200 chest and move on with your life. Also, do not use blessings to replace 4-star heroes. It costs 20 blessings to replace a useless 4-star hero. If I can find one. Or, for 5 times that cost, 100 blessings, you can replace a 5-star hero to try and get a useful elite hero. So hopefully that covers all of the ways you should be completing the Shelter Event, as well as how the event works in general. But let me know in the comments if you still have any questions about that event, or if there are any other event guides that you want to see in the future. But that's going to be it for this one. Again, please hit that subscribe button if you want to help me grow even faster. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.